Some of the messages can be a bit confusing, but if I ran that debug, sorry, get back. So all I've done is I turn on DBIc trace and then I run my script. That then spits out all of the database commands that are actually happening. So, for example, if we were running that previous code, we'd insert into authors, create that, and then insert into books. That's what's happening under the hood. So if you do think there's something wrong, and you're going, well, hang on, this is really slow, why is it working in this way? You can use the DBI trace to see what is actually happening against your database. Now, that's fine, as long as your object should behave and just be a store, really, a way of getting data in and out of the database. But you can overload these things and do lots of extra stuff. So, again, we go in, we have a look at our bookstore schema, result books. And so here, again, it's told us don't edit above that, so I've snipped that out. But we can create extra methods. So we can create an ISBN method on our book. And that goes and gets the object in, that's our sub. And here I can go, maybe there's an Amazon API, and I can say, well, here's the title, and that's our self-title, we're just referring to our own data. I can go and look that up, and then I can then return that. So now our object that represents a book in the database has an additional method that we can go and get the ISBN number. So it gives us a lot of power and flexibility about how we create things and interact with the model, the object, and the database. We can also do a lot of very clever things. So we can do inflating. So you can tell DBIx class to inflate a column. So if we have a date published, we can say, well, I don't want to have to deal with strings of dates. I want to use date time objects. So we can say that you can inflate that. So when it comes out of the database, anytime you call the date published, you get a date time object back. And equally, when you want to update it, you put in the date time object, and it then knows how to convert that into the format that the database needs it to use. In fact, there's actually a plugin that will do this for all of your data fields in your database if you want to turn that on. So that allows us to inflate and deflate information very easily. So we can pull off the date published, we can call month abbreviation, and that then tells us what our month is. We can do exactly the same for result sets. So here, let's say we want to find the ultimate books. So we've got, this is a new file I'm creating, because it's our result set, so I've created result sets books.pm, base class of DBIx class result set, and here I'm going to say, well, I'm going to return a search where the title has 42 in it. Of course, that must be the ultimate book. We can add other methods, so we can say, by this specific author. These aren't actually doing the searches, they're preparing the searches. And what happens is that you can then start chaining these things together. So let's look at using this. Here I can say, well, I'm going to get my bookstore schema for books. I've got my book model. I can say I want the ultimate books on that. And from that result set, I can get a list of all of those books. And you can chain these things together. So we can then end up, sorry, let me go back one. So here I've got my author, and then I can say, well, I want the books, where the ultimate books, of course that's 42 in the title, and is by this specific author. So what you end up with is the ability to chain these things. So you've hidden that complexity into your object model. So we can say a book where it's the ultimate book by this specific author, or you can go and have a look at the book model, ultimate books, and you get that results out. So you can actually then see, with debugging turned on, the exact SQL that gets generated. So taking that further, we can then go as far as we want with that. So we can say a category is children's books, it's by this author, it's published after this date, the first page contains this word, greater rating than such and such. So suddenly what's happening in your code is extremely readable, and you're not having to worry about the SQL that's going on under the hood. That will all be put together from those small bits of code that you created earlier on. And of course you can then get all of those books. You can overload all sorts of things. You can overload before you do an insert. You can overload before you do a delete. So you can have knock-on effects. You might have a case where your delete a record means that you need to send an email to personnel saying this person's now left, or something like that. Right, relationships. We can, of course, most books might have an author, but they might have multiple authors. So we need to cope with that. So suddenly we've got this bit of complexity here. We have many-to-many relationships, and it starts looking a bit, what's going on here? Just a few of those. So we have to create a new join table. Obviously in here we have an auto-increment, so it's easy to reference, a book ID and an author ID with the foreign keys set up. So we need to look at this has many relationship and this belongs to relationship. So the has many side of it, well, our schema loader handled all of that for us automatically. Here you can look through, it's got the name of the accessible related class and the relationship. You can then also do the belongs to, which is the other side of it. Again, that's automatically generated for you. Okay, quick. And exactly the same for the authors. So actually with no code, you just run your schema loader, you get this. That is all handled for you. So the only thing you need to worry about is then is the many-to-many. So this is the only bit you need to go and join in, is say the many-to-many from the books going through to the authors, and again from the authors going through to the books. So you can then use that, and in exactly the same way, we haven't actually had to change our code here. So we've got our author object, we've added books to that, but in terms of what's happened with the SQL, it's actually created the relationship for us automatically as well, tracking all the primary keys. So you can then use that, you can add in an author to that relationship. So all of that in 16 lines of code. I'll skim, I'm running out of time, so I'll skim quickly. Errors, there are a lot of error messages. The key thing here is read them carefully. I've been stung by this many times, the author versus authors. So turn on your debugging, read those very carefully, check your field names match exactly, and check your package names fit properly. And then also check which database you're connecting to. A number of times I've connected to the wrong one and not worked out why it's going wrong. Thank you very much, and I'm afraid I don't have time for bonus slides. They will all be uploaded to SlideShare and LinkedIn from various places later on. Thank you.
Training is subject. Or you get the results. This is my result. Also select this one.
No, select from where in select from.
With training, you don't need to do that.
You have to in this case.
Why?
It's really difficult. I need to sort by custom fields that are applied.